So it looks like men are actually more discriminated against than women. Let's have a look. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Heiser Says. Today I'd like to talk about this article from the Daily Mail. So apparently men face more discrimination than women, a global study claims. So men are disadvantaged in 91 countries compared to 43 nations for women. The UK, USA and Australia all discriminate against men more. Wow. And they created the basic index of gender inequality to assess this inequality. So let's go through this article here, because I haven't gone through it, but I've noticed they mentioned the wage gap, and I want to see what their take on that is. So women are better off. Yep. Researchers say this is due to men receiving harsher punishments for the same crime. Yep. Compulsory military service. You're right. And more occupational deaths than women. So I can't imagine this is going to be a surprise to anyone who watches a lot of my content or anyone involved or concerned with men's rights at all, because, guys, we don't have it as good. The study was carried out by the University of Essex and the University of Missouri Columbia and published online in the journal PLOS ONE. Scientists created a database which deciphers a nation's discrimination called the Basic Index of Gender Inequality, Biggie. The closer the Biggie score is to 0, the greater the level of equality in the country. Okay. 0 is a perfect score, indicating absolute parity between the genders, and Italy came closest with a score of 0.00021, slightly favoring males. That's okay. I want to learn a bit more about how they calculate this ratio. Top-ranked nations to favor women over men claimed... What? The top-ranked nation to favor women over men is claimed to be Saudi Arabia? What? No, that Saudi Arabia, where up until recently women couldn't drive. Okay. If it's a negative number, it indicates that females are better off. And if the Biggie score is positive, it shows that males are less discriminated against. The way they've written this, if it's a big positive number, men are better off, and if it's a negative number, women are better off. I don't like how they've written it. For example, Guatemala and Albania came in at 17th and 18th ranked countries respectively for equality and had Biggie scores a similar distance from 0. However, Guatemala is a better environment for men, where Albania is a better environment for women. Okay. The index is based on 3 factors: educational opportunities, healthy life expectancy, and overall life satisfaction. How can Saudi Arabia be the top one for women? Don't they still have male chaperones? Can someone let me know in the comments? I think I know we've worked on projects in Gulf nations, and they were very restrictive. A measure called, Gabi, has been used as a yardstick for analyzing inequality since its inception in 2006. The Global Gender Gap Index. It became one of the most widely used measures of national gender inequality used by academics and policymakers across the world. Oh, well, there's your cream of the crop there, isn't it? Researchers have grown wary of the index and claim it does not measure issues where men are at a disadvantage. Professor Stott also believes the complexity of the Global Gender Gap Index makes it difficult to distinguish whether gender differences are the result of social inequalities or personal preferences. The simpler Biggie method, he said, is a much sounder alternative. He said, no existing measure of gender inequality fully captures the hardships that are disproportionately experienced by men in many countries, so they do not fully capture the extent to which any specific country is promoting the well-being of all of its citizens. The Biggie provides a much simpler way of tackling gender inequality, and it focuses on aspects of life that are directly relevant to all people. Used alongside other existing indicators, it provides additional and different information to give a more complete assessment of gender equality. making it easier for policymakers to introduce changes to improve the quality of life for both men and women. Maybe the government should just stay out of people's lives. That's probably going to be the easiest way you can improve our quality of lives. Really simple. Doesn't cost anything. It actually saves you money. So almost 8 in 10 firms pay men more. See, who cares? Who cares? Yeah, but, you know, percent of firms who... why are they even bringing up the earnings gap? Okay, it's not a pay gap, it's an earnings gap. Sure, they get paid more, but they're probably doing different jobs, and we all know that. Why? No one can believe this anymore. I know Labor's running with it, but they're just identitarian, you know, groupthink people now that can't even have a sensible conversation anymore. Researchers found the most developed countries in the world came closest to achieving true gender equality, but there was a slight advantage for women. That's not surprising. Inequality was more significant in the least developed countries, with Chad the lowest ranked nation. Women in these nations are at a more significant disadvantage than the men in more developed nations where women have the edge. Well, you're comparing different things there, so it really doesn't matter. The author of the research says the difficulty faced by women in developing regions is predominantly due to fewer opportunities to get a good education. There are an equal amount of nations with medium-level development that see men and women falling behind. Researchers say men's disadvantage is largely due to a shorter, healthy lifespan. Professor David Gary from the Department of Psychological Studies at the University of Missouri in the United States added, "We sought to correct the bias towards women's issues within existing measurements, and at the same time develop a simple measure that is useful in any country in the world, regardless of the level of economic development." So it sounds like a laudable goal to do this. I wonder how effective. Saudi Arabia? Really? So here we go, the gender pay gap. You know what? Who cares? I'm not even going to bother reading this. We all know that it's a gender earnings gap. It's not a gender pay gap. It's due to people's life choices. You know, that's what it is. Public sector staff, yeah, higher wages, and a lot of women work in those sectors. Anyway, the University of Essex... if you want to know more about the gender pay gap or all the other gaps, I've got a video playlist series called the Gap Series, where I just start collecting all these different little topics. You know, there's a tax gap. Guess who pays more tax? There's a pocket money gap. Guess who gets more pocket money? Or men doing that, and men pay more. So there are all these different gaps, and it's not as simple as anyone portrays. You know, when we have freedom to actually make different choices, we get different outcomes. The University of Essex, which performed the research, made headlines in 2016 when it gave female staff a one-off pay rise in order to close the gender pay gap. It's an earnings gap. So what's the incentive for men to work harder then? It moved 3 female professors up 3 newly created pay levels to raise their average salaries the same as their male counterparts. So they fudged the numbers. Newly created pay levels. They just fudged the numbers. I remember ANZ, I did a video about this a long time ago where they were claiming all these, you know, more women in management positions, and really they just changed some of their reporting methods so more call center operators were considered management. It's just fudging the numbers. Professor added, "We're not saying that women in highly developed countries are not experiencing disadvantages in some aspects of their lives. What we are saying is that an ideal measure of gender equality is not biased to the disadvantages of either gender. In doing so, we find a different picture to the one commonly presented in the media." So who's better off in Italy? Men. Barely. Israel. Men. Barely. Saudi Arabia. Women. Maybe that is just because men have it so crap in Saudi Arabia. That would have to be. Females. Indonesia. Females in Indonesia, really? Singapore. Men. Turkey. Females. Men. Let's try and find Australia. Where's Australia? Germany. Females. By a decent amount. Wow, look at all these European countries. Bosnia, Canada, Great Britain. Females. Bloody hell. New Zealand. Females. Austria. Females. Have I missed Australia? How far down are we? Bugger, where is Australia? New Zealand's 32. Peru, Greece, females. Norway, females. Shit, France. So, here we go, 49. 49. Look at that. Look at the benefit that women have. So we got crazy feminists claiming that there's a patriarchy, and now we have evidence in Australia that there's not. Okay, and we're ranked number 49. So, wow. Saudi Arabia, really? I still can't get over that. Guys, I'll put a link to this on my website. You can check it out. Look at the list yourself. South Africa, wow. Let's try and find... Oh, Nepal, men. India, men. Philippines, female. So, yeah, guys, I can't imagine anyone is too surprised with this, but, you know, how can anyone, all SJW feminists, how can these women claim that we have a patriarchy when we now have evidence that no, we do not have a patriarchy? And why are they discussing the gender pay gap? I mean, it's an earnings gap made by your lifestyle choices. It's irrelevant. You know, they're talking about a pay gap in the United Kingdom. Which one is the United Kingdom? It's a female advantage state, isn't it? Great Britain, there you go. Right there. So guys, thank you all for joining me for this episode of Heiser Says. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all again tomorrow. Bye for now.